Welcome to the True That Show, a show about lifepreneurship presented with wit, humor, and banter by Deborah Drummond and Caroline Blanchard. A lifepreneur is someone who's living life the way an entrepreneur runs their business. All in. Lifepreneurs are rock stars. Lifepreneurs are people who are brave, who risk, who live full on, who think out of the box, who win this thing called life. Lifepreneurs are around us every day. They are everyday heroes. Join Deborah and Caroline, these two stage-walking women who tell it like it is. You'll learn from the most incredible lifepreneurs who will inspire you to be the best version of you. Now here are your hosts.
Welcome everybody back to the True That Show. We are over the top thrilled today because, as you know, we love lifepreneurship, entrepreneurship, and everyday heroes. And honestly, you guys, we have somebody today that you could put in any one of those categories, because not only what she's doing is incredible as an entrepreneur, but it supports entrepreneurs. It changes lives, and also an everyday hero in so many ways. And she's going to tell that in her own story. But I got to tell you, Caroline, one of the things that I absolutely love about Mel, and even you guys may or may not see because you're listening. Some of you are listening to this on the podcast. Mel's got herself, on here as Freedom Revolution. I mean, if that doesn't say anything, I don't know. So look, I'm super excited because, Mel's going to come on and she's got this very cool company called She's Creating an Empire. Clearly, we're very attracted to that because in our own ways, we've had our own climb to our own empire, and we absolutely love doing this media company. But it really got me thinking, because I know some of your story. I know my story and the challenges that we've come up against ourselves. Sometimes it's, we don't even know. We don't even know that it's not us. Like sometimes we're like, man, we're trying to get there, or we're thinking we got to do something one way, be all heart-centered. I was listening to Mel talk about that, be all heart-centered in our businesses. And we're like, where does that messaging come from? Like, why am I feeling guilty working on a Saturday afternoon? Like, why am I feeling guilty going back after the kids were in bed and cranking it out for a few hours? Or like, where does that guilt and stuff come from, right? And I think Mel's going to talk a lot about that. But as a woman who has pioneered, and I remember just being called the funkiest names, like not only hippie, but 30 years ago, I decided to go into the health and wellness field. Now I'm telling you, it's one thing to step out and be an entrepreneur, first in our family. The other thing was like, you're going to do what? You're going to talk about aromatherapy, what? And what? No sugar? And what are you talking about? Oh, what is meditating? Like 30 years ago, think about people, Starbucks wasn't around then. So, so I've had my fair share of being poked at, and my own, I've come up against my own ceiling levels so many times, and I don't know whose voices are in my damn head. How about you?
Well, I didn't pioneer any industry, but but I've always been on the rebel side, but always very, very shy when I was little. But I've always been thinking outside of the box. And I remember actually my brother started a roofing company. I was 16. And, it was just like, wow, he's starting his company and blah, blah. And anyway, long story short, when I was about 18, at some point I was having supper at his place. I was living outside of Montreal, having supper with them. And he's like, yeah, and men and men and men. And I'm like, oh, shush. What? You're like nailing shingles on a roof. Good for you. But I mean, you're not unique, and you're not special because you're doing that. You're just a dedicated worker who decided to start his company. And he's like, girls could never do that. I'm like, pardon me, girls could do that. And back then I was like, 120 pounds, 5'9". I was like, I was not that impressive, but I was just like, listen, I'm going to go do my semester. If you hire me for the summer, I'll come work with you and I'll show you. So for one summer, I was the cleaner on the roof, which means that I'm the one who was bringing the packs of shingles on the roof, 80 pounds a pack. I had to, like, my method was like, I was picking it up, swinging it on my leg, and then from my leg, swinging it on my arms. After a week, you should have seen my legs. They were blue, but I was not going to stop because we dealt a summer. So my sister-in-law was in between, like, stop making her do that. Like, she won and blah, blah, blah. She's gonna, she's gonna injure herself. So anyway, I ended up doing it the whole summer. I worked on roofs. I was pretty much the only girl in construction. My brother would send me with the pickup and everything to go do the purchases in the construction stores. I'm telling you, I've probably caused more accidents that summer than ever. Because that's like a few years ago. You wouldn't see women in construction, but my mentality has always been like, we're equal. Like, whatever you do, I can do. And if you're a doctor and I'm not, it's because I chose not to go to do my doctorate. And if you are a roofer and I'm not, it's not because I can't. It's because I chose not to. And today I feel good and free to have Mel on because it feels like I can fully embody the fact that, yes, there is a bit of a feminist in me. And gosh, yes, let's empower women. I mean, guys, men, yes, I love you, but you had your turn. It's a bit of ours, It's like everything has been evolving around you for quite a while. So what I love about Melanie, and I'm going to bring her on now. So let's welcome Melanie Greenough from, sorry, I didn't pronounce it properly. That's my French, Greenough. She's creating an empire. Melanie, thank you for what you're doing to empower women.
Thank you guys for being here. Honestly, like when I hear, I was listening to some of the podcasts as I was preparing to come on, and hearing that you guys are focused on the story and the journey is so much more important than the success, because I think that oftentimes people look at ladies like you or women that are out in the marketplace and they think that there must have been something magical or special that happened for them, when in reality it was just a process of moving towards an ideal, right? A progressive realization of a worthy ideal, as Earl Nightingale says. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
My pleasure. Well, thank you. And I think that, what, it's with women teaming up that we are getting stuff done. But Melanie, before telling us a bit why she's creating her empire, tell us about what that company is.
Okay, sure. So do you want me to talk about where I came from first? Because that might make more sense.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The reason, because I want to share She's Creating an Empire was born because I had to overcome a lot to become a successful entrepreneur, like a lot. So I like to give the backstory first so that you understand why we put together the company the way we have. So basically, my daughter now is 22 years old this year. And when she was 1 year old, we ended up in a woman's shelter with nothing. We had no bank account, no car, no place to stay, no money. I was going to be a stay-at-home Christian mom. I was so devastated that I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know a women's shelter was a thing, honestly. I just had nowhere to go. And the police told me that there was a place that they would give me shelter. And so I remember being there. I literally had $5 to my name in her diaper bag. I didn't even have to change of clothes because we had left, in a rush. And so I remember going in, and this is actually the birth of it. This is so crazy your journey can be. Maybe you've been called to something and it feels like it's coming a really long time coming. You know what I mean? Like you've been working on something, it's a really long time coming. Well, let me tell you, 21 years is a while. So I remember being there, and they were trying to help me negotiate the waters of now being a broke, homeless, single mom, right? And I remember sitting down and having to apply for a welfare check. And I remember the woman treating me like I was a stain on society. Like there was something wrong. Like I had done something wrong. If I had been, my church told me that if I, was a good stay-at-home mom and I just did, kept my head down and I stayed and I prayed, it would all work out. Right. And the woman in welfare, she was so horrible to me. And I remember thinking, I will never put my financial, well-being in another human's hands again. Okay. So that was the birth of She's Creating an Empire. Fast forward, you guys, I got myself back to school, worked worked until 2 a.m. while my daughter was sleeping, got up with her at 5 o'clock, did my homework, did my day, slept about 3 hours a night for about 4 years, actually. And then become a pastor, opened a couple businesses, all with just learning as I went. And what I realized was that, first of all, business oftentimes is a man's world. And they're not highly collaborative. There's not a lot of, and this is, 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of coaches to go ask for help. And so I just got to this place of like, I'd learn and I'd do, and I'd, fail a lot. I learned almost everything I know I learned from failing. I'm not kidding. So what happened for me, and that's how She's Created an Empire came about. I became a 7-figure earner in network marketing, but, have travel and speak on stages all over the world. And I kept having women ask me the same questions over and over again. And maybe your audience has the same questions. How do I get out of debt? How do I increase my income? How do I do, what Deb was talking about, not feel guilty about wanting to build an empire? What mindset do I need to have to survive? Because here's the reality. The reality is a lot has changed, but a lot hasn't changed. A lot has changed. Women can vote, right? We can drive. Those are good things. But there's a lot of things that haven't changed. Like, for example, my friend going to the bank and the bank refusing her a mortgage without her husband's signature. Okay. So it's like a lot has changed, but a lot hasn't changed. And so how do we not go against, because I love what you said, I have a little bit of feminist in you. Like, I'm a wild feminist, but I get when I say that, people misinterpret it. Because I love men. I'm married. I love my husband. I'm a wild feminist because I believe that women need to be empowered and educated and know the steps to take to secure themselves and their families, regardless of whether there's a man in the picture or not. So that's kind of how the whole thing came about.
Wow, that's amazing. You know what I love? And I want to highlight, because you're sitting here, I'm sitting here, Caroline's sitting here. We have a lot of audience that has been in that exact phase that you were talking about, Mel. It's like, how do I, and they don't finish this. The sentence is inputted like, how do I get more money? How do I this? How do I that? But it's more like, how do I do it within these confines? How do I do it with the beliefs that I have about myself right now? How do I do it? Because that's what I mean, where we come up against our own glass ceiling. And I don't know about you guys, but I'll take ownership for mine. I have hit up against myself many times. And that's where that question is, who's riding in the bus? And I love the word, I studied feminism for a long time and then came up, there's some great words around womanist. And I think the word womanist came out just to tone it down at a time where we were really, really looking to have a sense of identity as a gender, right? And have that gender be equalized. And I'm with you. I still to this day, and Caroline's heard me rant and rave about it. I'm like, I'll probably do a campaign at some point, is why still in bank applications is it, or even lots of applications, it's Mr. MR. That's it. That's the only thing they got for guys. But if it's a woman, it's are you an MISS? Are you an MRS? Are you an MS or other? I'm like, what else is there? In between those phases, right? And it's like, who gets to decide my financial positioning based on my marital status? That is still active.
Next time, just put an X and write lover.
I love it. Well, and I think you guys too, like the tricky part is, and we were saying this before the interview, is that women, we've been socialized, and I really need you guys to hear me, because the way I was able to transform, not you guys, but your audience to hear me, is the way I was able to transform my life and do what I've done is because I've been very intentional about what I choose to believe. I've been very intentional, measuring, okay, the world taught me that women should be, like kids should be seen, not heard, right? Or women should be quiet and wear flowing dresses and have makeup and hair done all the time and just be an accessory. And so that's literally the era that I grew up in. I'm 47 years old. And it doesn't matter. My daughter, even still now, she's been taught and told that her butt is more important than her mouth, meaning her pretty Instagram pictures is what's going to get her a following, not her beliefs and her values and her core being, right? So I love that word womanist. I think that, for me, it's like, now we've got this huge gender equality thing happening, meaning there's like, all kinds of genders rising up, or gender identity conversation happening. And I think all of us have an opportunity to choose the person and not the package. And I think that that's really powerful. And so for the women listening and for the guys, you've been trained to think about yourself a certain way. Who told you need to think like that? Who told you need to do it like that? And if you agree and you want to keep that belief, amazing. But if you have things that aren't serving you, and I'll give you an example, money comes easily and frequently from multiple sources on a continuous basis. That's the truth in my life. I do not worry about money. Money flows to me easily and frequently from multiple sources on a continuous basis. How is money in your life, right? Most people have literally been groomed to fear money. The only money thoughts they have are stressful. They're, not enough, just enough. How am I going to? What if? Like and you can just feel that when you talk about it, it shuts down the possibilities. And so we have to be super intentional about what we want to earn, how we want to earn it. Anyone can work from home. Anyone. I have 7 streams of income. Now I didn't start with 7. I started with 1. Right. And then when I got that one, I did another one. But you guys understand that it's like we have to intentionally unpack the things that we've been trained so we can repack our bag with the stuff that we want to believe. And I think it comes down to, gender doesn't even factor into that. That's a human thing. That's a core human spirit desire. So.
No, and I love what you're saying there, because I will give a very live example of my husband and I. We have a discussion on something like, oh, let's redo the bathroom. I'm like thinking we can do a 60 by 60 feet bathroom in hours, but no, you need to stay in that size. So I'm like, okay, let's put it in. He's like, no, we don't have the money. And we do. It's because in his mind, we have the money after we saved for our next 30 years. And then when those 30 years are saved, we need to have a cushion after, in case something happens, in those 30 years. And then after the cushion, well, you really need to be secure. So after all of that, we would have money. So it's really the mentality of this. And my mentality is like, we have $5, let's spend 10, come on. So it's really different. We're so opposite. So thankfully we find a common ground or not. That's going to be another podcast, but it's
right.
Yeah. A big part is, yes, there's a gender thing here that I was raised with my mom alone. So I saw her struggle. So my siblings and I took 2 different roads. One is like saving everything. I'm spending everything. So I think that the way you're raised is a big thing. Your gender is another big thing. And also it's what you choose to believe in. And, I love what you're saying. And I also like the term feminism. I think I'm going to start using that, because when we say feminist, we see an angry, okay, I'm going to say it for real, angry, not pretty woman, with her legs not shaved and against the world. That's what we see. But it's not really that, and we don't have to be mad at men to be a feminist. It's just that we have to want our position as a woman. And that's what I am. So womanism.
I love it.
Yeah.
But
two things, you guys. One is that we have to be careful. Why do we have that picture of a feminist, right? Who told us that idea? Because I'll tell you right now, when you stand for something, it means you automatically stand against everything that something is not. Right? So there are people that don't want for me to know and believe that I'm completely free and capable as a woman. That is there's another side, that everything in life has 2 sides, right? Every coin has 2 sides. So I want to be free. Well, there's another side to that coin where people don't necessarily want that. Now, that one thing I do want to pass on to the audience, because I think it's super powerful, I learned from my mentor, and maybe it'll help your audience, is that whenever we want to do something, we shouldn't ask, can I? We should ask, how can I? And rich people always choose both. They always choose both. They don't say I have to do this or that. If they want to do both, they choose both. So I want both. How can I make that happen? And when we ask that question, guess what? Solutions will come, right?
That's what I'd love to talk on a little bit, because Caroline picked on something that's very, very true and real. And that is when we talk about, these voices, or who says this, or the pictures that we have, or whatever it is that the undercurrent for so many people that can't get to where they want to go is two things that you've covered. One is people are afraid of the duration of time that it's going to take. There's one thing. And just knowing that it's going to take as long as it takes, but you're going to be in a better place through the journey. Two is how. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of shame attached to not knowing. There's a lot of shame for someone to say, I don't know about finances. I don't know how to balance a checkbook. I don't know what stocks means. I don't know what Dow Jones means. I don't know what, and honestly, even if you went through that myself, I have to ask people, and people have a bit of a fear around asking. I don't think so much now, like people will hire business coaches, or people will hire, all sorts of people to help them with certain things, counselors, therapists, anxiety, depression, but talk about money. Who wants to admit? And I'm telling you, it doesn't bring up embarrassment. It triggers some kind of shame, like we should know. Even for men, even if you flip that over, because they're supposed to be the providers, they're supposed to be this, they've got their own bag of bags, right? They got their own backpack they carry. The one thing that just really turns me on, Mel, is that you've kind of done it yourself so people can see where you've come, but you've made your life's work around teaching people how to do it themselves in a very loving, caring way that people can progress, just progress and learn. Can you tell us more about that? Because I think that's where the money is.
Yeah, I think the reality is that, in my journey, I did think there was something wrong with me. And I did think that I missed something. Like, I did not understand school. Like, I quit 6 times, straight A student, but I couldn't figure out where they were leading me. Right. But in my school, no one taught me how to balance a checkbook. No one told me how to, trade in the market. Nobody showed me how to even invest in real estate or get a mortgage or what that looks like. Right. And so, or that mortgages were not necessarily the right option. We've been sold that getting a house and owning a house is the answer. It's actually not. It's the opposite. Rich people don't do that. Rich people buy property and cash flow the property. They never live in it. So, they do once they're free. Right. So, but that brings up a whole bunch of fear, because it challenges what we've been taught, right? Go to school, get a good education so you can get a good job. After 40 years, you get to require complete bullshit. You do not. And then you're going to buy a house and a car, right? And then you're going to spend the next 40 years getting out of debt and getting back to zero. Who wants to sign up for that? But that's literally what we're sold. Like, so you're right. I did make it my life mission to create a loving space where people can come and just be okay. It's okay that you don't know. No one taught you. How would you know, right? How would you know? Did your mom, did your dad, did your grandparents teach you any of this? No. So how would you know? Also, what are the steps that we can take? And we almost always start with paying off debt. Almost always, because people get student loans, they get houses, they get mortgages, they get buried under debt. By the way, the system wants that for you, because write this down. When you are in fear, you are easy to control. When you are living in fear, you are easy to control. When you are afraid of losing your job because you can't pay off your debt, you're easy to control. When your government wants you to do something and they lean on you, and if you're afraid, you'll do the thing, right? We are seeing this live right now. So the reality is that when we get free in our own selves, and when we realize it's okay to not know, and it's okay to be on a journey, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay even in the process of that to try and fail 1,000 times over, right? And here's the thing, you guys, maybe you're leading a business, maybe you've got a team, maybe you whatever. The reality is the people that you're working with, they are people who are in fear, which is 98% of the population lives in some sort of fear or stress, especially around money. That topic can cause people to do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Okay. It can cause them to say things they wouldn't otherwise say. So She's Creating an Empire is there to help people go on that journey, learn about, debt reduction, learn about multiple streams of income, learn about trading in the markets. I love Carolyn's daughter is 20 years old, and she was telling me that she took up stock trading. And I'm like, that is brilliant. Like, I need to know that, girl, So I'm on a mission to empower women to learn how to take the money that they have and make it grow, right? Pay off their debts. They're not a slave to anybody, because you're a slave to those you owe. We don't want that. And then getting into a place where you can rise up in your power to deliver your purpose. And this is, and then I'll pass it back to you, but I want you guys to really, just what's coming to me now is like, as we're talking about this, we've been kind of sold a lie that, as long as you follow your purpose and your passion, you're going to be happy. Well, have you ever been homeless? I don't care how much you're following your purpose and your passion. If you can't feed your kids, if you can't feel confident in your financial, fiscal responsibilities, if you can't feel like, we had somebody very close to us die recently, we paid for the funeral, we paid for all of it because no one else in the family could, right? So that brings me a security that allows me to pursue my passion. It allows for me to deliver my purpose. I believe it's very difficult to do it without the financial piece. So how do we get women believing that they could become millionaires? And by the way, becoming a millionaire can be done in a year, for real. Not an income claim telling you, I've seen it, but just telling these ladies about, women that we work with, they do it like that. Why? Because they're dedicated. They have a strong desire. They're willing to put in the time, and they're willing to see it through, see the job through, right? Because it's not a straight up, it's not a straight up like, yay, I'm there.
And honestly, if you take Mel as a coach, there's no going back.
We don't do excuses.
I was telling her, because I started taking her class, and actually I absolutely love it. And I'm going to make a confession here and be so truthful. But in my life, there's so many steps that I've winged, because I had to, and I was resourceful, and I was, I was really ambitious and everything. So there's some steps at places that I jumped and I landed in the good place, and I was just like, whew, that was a close one. And then you keep going and you keep going, and you miss some of the basics, and you get to a place that you cannot even ask about those basics anymore because you have a position and you're supposed to know. And what I love, like for me, stock market, my 20-year-old daughter knows more than me. Like it's a fear for me because it's been so, I've stayed away from it so long, and people would talk about it and I would give the, yeah, you're in a conversation. I would carry my conversation, but not know. So what I love about your course, and you have multiple different courses, but one that I'm taking is there's really, like Deb was saying, no shame. And regardless of the success I had, regardless of the fact that I am a successful entrepreneur, I'm learning so much, and it's a comfortable environment. And it's like, thank God they're talking about that, because, like, oh yeah, 1 + 1 is 2. Yes. So I like that. And I like your attitude, as I was saying, of like, well, you got to put in your effort. It's not going to come to you all that easy. And it's, breaking the social molds. And it's funny you talk about my daughter, because on the flip side, the first question everyone asks me about her and ask her when they see her is like, so are you working? Are you in school? Always. And if she says like, no, and she really doesn't care, she's like, nope, and she doesn't give any explanation. But for people, it's like, what is she doing? She's spending her whole day on her phone. Like, it's not even an answer to give. Like, I'm doing this stock market, especially for a girl.
Oh boy, yeah.
Stigmatized. Like, it's like,
yeah.
People are looking at her like, so when are you going to do something with your life? And I'm beside them like, she will, she's okay. But anyway, I love your class. And for everyone listening, take that class. Do yourself a favor, take that class. And I'm giving it to you, Deb, because I know you have a lot to say.
Well, no, there's one question that I can hear. It's always funny when we do these interviews and I can hear the same question. And so someone who's going to need this answer. And I think specifically, if you are talking women, who predominantly take on roles other than, like the aging parents, the young kids. I mean, sometimes physicality requires us to be the one at home, whether you're nursing, whether what have you. So we tend to have more of those caregiving responsibilities, which can feel a little heavy. When I've said, multiple streams of income to some women, and when someone first said it to me, the first thing that went off in my head is, I do not have time for, like, what do you, like, seriously, what is that? 3 part-time jobs, 4 direct sales, like, what am I doing? And so can you ease that pressure for people? Like, when you say multiple streams of income, or you've got 7 multiple streams of income, I think there's people out there that go, I could never do that, because I don't think they really understand. So if you can just shine a light on that a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. So the thing about becoming free, people think that it's about the money. It's not, it's about the mindset. When you want financial freedom, the mindset has to come first. So for me, when I look at a business, I ask myself, okay, how much time is it going to require? What's the investment? Do I have to show up to make the money? Because that's not happening. And then when I am actually moving forward, am I feeling good in doing the things? So and I'll just give you guys some examples. My daughter is 22 years old. She started an Airbnb company. She's actually going to be training on this inside She's Creating an Empire. But she started an Airbnb company. She manages it, which means that does a little bit of texting with clients, maybe like 4 hours a month. And then she has cleaners that does the whole thing. And she's making an override of 20% on all the bookings. It's literally a business that she spends 10 hours a month doing that pays her several $1,000s a month, right? Anyone, I don't care if you have aging parents or, like you said, nursing babies, you can do that. That's why I love trading so much. You can trade for an hour a day, legitimately, right from your phone, like you said, right, Carolyn? She's on her phone and people are like, what is she doing? Right? She's making trades. I traded for an hour before I came on here this morning. And I this morning made as much money trading as most people would make at a full-time job in 45 minutes while I was making sweet potato hash browns. So for me, it's like when I look at multiple streams of income, this is not about, I did the whole work 18 hours a day, right? I did that thing when I owned traditional businesses and it almost killed me. I had, my own kid, 2 dogs, 3 foster kids, pastoring a church, single mom, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like, dude, I worked so hard. And then I got smart, right? Then I got smart and I'm like, okay, wait a second. There are things that I can do. If other people are getting wealthy and it's residual, I can do it too. And that journey took a long time. So I think the thing is, it comes back to our mental state. You have been trained to trade time for money. Trading time for money will guarantee you will never have any money. You don't have enough hours in a day to trade for the amount of money that you want. It doesn't add up. The math doesn't work. So how do we create money that comes to you without your time or a portion of your time? So I'll just give you an example. I have a network marketing business, right? My network marketing business pays really well. I don't want to give any income claims, but I want you guys to know, like, it's a lot of money. And then I trade, and that's a lot of money. And then I have, an online store. That's a lot of money. And I sell courses. That's a lot of money. But that all gradually happened as I took the first step. And Deb, I know both you and Carolyn, you have multiple streams of income yourself. You've built a network marketing, you've done all of the coaching, you've done the whole thing, right? So it's like, how do we get women to take the first step, or men in general? You have to start somewhere. And a turnkey business that's online, that's from your phone, is probably the best place for you to start, honestly, because it starts to give you the mindset and the training. But Carolyn, what you said about, people going through that course and learning and having a safe place, that is all a part of what we do, right? I actually have a freebie that I can give away that's 50 ways to make money from home. 50 ways that you can start to make money from home right now. So I can include that in the notes if you guys want, but it's just, how do we get you to shift trading time for money to leverage sources of income is really what it's all about.
Right on. Well, I, if I wasn't signed up, I would. So, because, it's community, right? It's also community. And I think it's community and education that makes the change. Like, from someone who's been, I'm 10 years, almost your tenor. And so when we talk pioneering and being picked on for being a woman that wanted to do a business, it really was kind of bizarre to people. And no disrespect to them. It was, the unicorn in the room. People like, oh, you're just a unicorn. And I'm like, you just haven't caught up. Like, just go get some wings. It's okay. They're for sale down the street. So I think that what happens is we break ground, and then we need to re-break ground, and then we need to break our own ground. And so I think it's an evolution, and we're getting there. And I do agree with you. It's time, and sometimes it goes backwards, right? Sometimes.
And you can be, and here's the thing I want you guys to hear. You can be an excellent mom. You can be an excellent wife. You can be an excellent daughter. You can be an excellent whatever and be an entrepreneur and be a millionaire. You can do it. Anybody can do it. You don't have to trade. Like, we don't have to trade our family for success. We don't have to trade that. We don't have to. I have all of it. My family last night I had a family feast with my 20-year-old kids. We had steak and crab, wine, the whole bit. The only place they want to be in is in the room with us. I didn't trade my family for my success. Right. And I didn't so just know, you guys, I know that that's another part of what plays into women's minds. They're like, well, I'm sacrificing time away from my kids. Your kids don't need all your time. Your kids need your focused attention. They need for you to intentionally groom them to succeed. And they are not going to, get that from you if you aren't following your dreams, your passion, your purpose, and stepping out and doing something. And if you're stepping out and doing something as being a stay-at-home mom, and like mine was, right? I got backed into the truck because I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, period. I believe God had other plans for me. So here we are. But I want you guys to know, like, if that's your passion, your purpose, do it with everything you've got. It does not mean, though, that you can't have streams of income coming into your home. So.
And being educated. Right?
All about the education.
Yeah.
Yeah. And educated doesn't mean school either. I just want to add that. And that's why I'm having a hard time with my kids going to university, because they're like, Mom, you told us. And I'm like, okay, as long as you learn. I encourage them to read and to always learn. But I love what you said about, you can be a great mom and also be an entrepreneur. Because on the flip side, I know some really great stay-at-home moms who have multiple kids, and they're 24 hours a day, and they're probably there 14 hours a day wishing they would be somewhere else because they're overly stressed and tired and this and that. So people, what I will say is contact Melanie. We will put all of the details. Thank you so much for the gift that you will be offering. So contact Melanie, subscribe to She's Creating an Empire. You owe that to yourself. And also what I want to say is that Melanie will also be an author in our next book, 20 Powerful Women in Network Marketing, Tell All. And I cannot wait to read your story, because you will get other tips there if you are curious about network marketing. But what I love is that you're a full circle, Melanie. You're like, really, you walk your talk. You are a full circle. So thank you for being so authentic and so generous by sharing all of that with us. And I'll give you the opportunity to say your last words if you want, and then we'll let Deb talk, because she always wants the last word.
There it is. There's the pot.
Well, I want to say, what I want to say is that is the ultimate compliment I believe anybody can pay anybody anywhere in their life, is that they walk their talk. Because in life, there are a lot of people that say that they will help you or show you or coach you, and when in reality, they haven't done the thing that you're asking for the help for. So for me, just knowing that comes across as important. And I believe that birds of a feather flock together, and that I'm on here because you guys are doing the exact same thing for women and for men all around the world by showing them the journey and the process. And then it's not about the destination. You'll get to the destination. You just got to keep walking, and half the time it's like through mud. So just keep going. So thank you, guys.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. There was so much that I got out of this today too, as someone who tries to race through the mud. It's always really a great reminder. And you know what, if you were inspired today and you think that you would like to come on to the True That show because you have something that you want to share about your journey, your everyday hero, your lifepreneurship, you got an event coming up, there's things you want, just reach out to Caroline or I on the True That show YouTube, or pop on to any interview. We'd love to hear from you, love to hear what you want to share with the world. And with that, we just thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. And yeah, listen to this and share this video. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it on your social. Send out what Mel's got going on. Personally, that list alone of 50 is great. And just thank you so much for being one of our listeners. We appreciate it.